Hello, everyone. I'm Frances Arthur with Field Trip Ready, and I want to share some information with you today about things that I do that make my field trips to Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Boston, um, a 20th century tour through Kentucky and Ohio, and even a Civil War era field trip through West Tennessee and into Mississippi, how I make these trips so successful. I've been doing trips like this for extended periods, usually a minimum of 3 or 4 days, and sometimes as many as 10 days, depending on the group and where we're going and what we want to accomplish while we're there. I've had great success over the years, and it's because of one thing that I do. It's planning, prior planning to the trip, and not just for me, but for everybody going on the trip with me. I have had precisely one behavioral issue in those 20 years, which was very quickly taken care of on the first day, and never had another one ever before or since then. Yeah, because students always know what I expect of them, so that's laid clear. Here's a hint: every good teacher knows you don't set expectations one time and you're done with it. That's not how it works. Parents know this too. How many times have you had to tell your child to do the same thing over and over and over again? Yeah, learned a long time ago that it happens incrementally. It takes steps. So I use that information to my advantage when I'm planning a field trip. Before I will take you to the corner market, I prepare you for the trip. That served me well as a homeschooling mom of two very rambunctious boys, excuse me, and in their childhood. And so before we would leave for the grocery store, the corner market, wherever, I would always tell them, okay, we're going here. We're getting this. Don't ask me for anything else. Done. No problem. Didn't have problems with their behaviors. I never once had a child who threw a fit in a grocery store. Yeah, it's because I prepare in advance for these trips. And you can too. It's not as hard as you think. Before I will take you on a field trip for 3 days, much less 7 days, I've got to teach you a lot of stuff to get you ready for that in advance. The more you know before the trip, the more you're going to enjoy the trip, and the more I'm going to enjoy the trip. And it's costing me money and time to be there, so I can guarantee you I'm going to enjoy it. So we're going to plan for it in advance. So teachers, moms, dads, let me give you some advice on this. Whenever I'm planning a trip for a week, we don't call it vacation because it's not, okay? It's a field trip. We start planning 8 to 10 months in advance. Not just me, the students. What I mean by this planning is I'm going to teach them about everything they're going to see, every place we're going to visit, everything we're going to do before we even get in the car or a plane or a train or however we're getting there. They're going to know all of it before we go. Now, some people have tried to argue that with me and say, well, if you already teach them, then what's the point in going? Oh, please. Let me tell you, if you teach them in advance what they're going to see, then when they get there, they will appreciate it. They won't be running around, bored, sitting on a bench, playing with their phone. Phones aren't even allowed on my trips. So not during the body of the trip. Now, while we're in a car or on a subway, so that you can do that then. But yeah, the rest of the time, no, you're not playing on your cell phone. The only time you pull it out is to take a picture. So they appreciate the journey even more because we plan for it in advance. So 8 to 10 months behind the trip, I start scheduling class meetings. I try to schedule a consistent time so everybody can work it into their schedule each week or each month. At a minimum, I like to do 2 every month. That gives them enough space to do their homework in between. Yeah, there's homework, and it's online, but there's got to be written information in it. If you read How Students Best Learn, and every good teacher should, whether you're a public school, private school, a homeschooling parent, then you've probably learned already that they don't learn so well when they just read material online. They don't seem to retain it. But when they write it down, it usually sticks with them a little bit better, barring some learning differences that students have. So, developing a notebook is a mandatory preparation for all of my trips. You must develop and carry with you a student notebook for my trips. Okay, so I'm going to set this up like the field trip that I just did to Washington, D.C. We just got back about a week ago and had such a wonderful time with the only major problems on the trip were ones caused by my knee injury, but everything else went swimmingly. So back last fall, we started scheduling monthly meet every month, twice a month. By January of this year, we were doing twice a month, and sometimes 3 times a month, just to make sure that we got everything done. In each one of those class meetings, students are given for Washington, D.C., at least 2 places that they have to research that we will visit while we're there. So they will research something like the Lincoln Memorial and the Vietnam War Memorial for this lesson. And then when we come to class, they've already researched everything they could find on the Lincoln Memorial and everything they could find on the Vietnam War Memorial. They know where it's located, why it was built, to whom it was it's made in honor, and how it was built, how the construction worked. So they know all of those things. So then we can get into the class and I can teach them the stuff that they might not have found in their own research. For example, they come to me knowing, okay, well, the Lincoln Memorial was built in honor of Abraham Lincoln. Who was Abraham Lincoln? They've researched that. Where is it located? They've probably seen it on a map. I'm going to hone that in for them during class and make sure they know precisely where it is. One of the things that I do not allow on my field trip are 2 types of questions. You may never ask me a question that begins with the words, where is the, you have a map. In one of my classes, I teach you how to read maps. So they're going to know that. So they never ever ask me, where is the? They also cannot ask me, when are we? When are we going to, blah, blah, blah. When will we? Nope, I don't answer those questions because I give them an itinerary in our last class meeting. They have a complete itinerary that tells everything that we're going to do and when we're supposed to be there. That makes me less important on trips, which, considering the knee injury I had, came in really handy on this trip because there were a couple of days when I had to bug out a little bit early and head back to the hotel. No problem. They had a map. They knew where they were. They knew how to read it. They knew when they were supposed to be at different places. They knew how to get back to the hotel at night. All of these things came in handy for me. Just think about this. Okay, maybe you're not injured. What if, God forbid, what if, dear colleague, one of your students gets hurt or sick and you have to take them to a hospital or back to the hotel? Who's going to run your group trip then? It better be somebody that knows how to read a map and knows how to read the itinerary. So make sure everybody in your group can do that. Okay? So during these class meetings where I've given them two places where they have to look up, we build a notebook. This is my Washington, D.C. notebook. You'll see it's just a simple spiral notebook. In the front cover of it, I have the itinerary, okay? That tells everything. I'm trying to get it so you can see, yeah, what time we're going to go to this place, where we're going to be, how to navigate the subway system, what train we're going to be on, all of that. So that is on the front inside cover of the notebook, okay? On the next page is a map. I love maps. And so I teach my students how to read the map. This is obviously, even though you can't read it, if you have seen the Washington National Mall, then you know that that's what this is. So a copy of the National Mall, and I let every student pick their own map because different types of maps work for different types of learners. I like the types of maps that have the names of everything right where it is. So, for example, where the Washington Monument is located, it says right here, Washington Monument. I'm sorry you can't read it because it's blurry, but some people prefer a map that just has numbers at different places, and then in the corner it'll have a legend with all of the numbers, listed there. Number 1 is the Washington Monument. Number 2 is this. Number 3 is this. Okay, that kind of map makes this learner nuts. So I don't use those. Tried one year, bad move. So have each student go through, and that's a simple Google search, okay? Go to Google, look maps of the National Mall of Washington, D.C., and 500 different types of maps will pop up there. Have them find one that they like and print it in color, okay? If they can't do it at home, tell them to send it to a local print shop. Print one copy, print one for me. I need this copy, and that's completely legal for them to do that because this is educational and they're not making money off of it. So they can print off that map. Okay, so this is in the front cover of my book. In Washington, D.C., there is one other type of map that they are going to need if you're traveling in a small group, and that is the Washington, D.C. Metro. It's on the back cover because they need it every time we go anywhere. If you're traveling with a small group, I highly recommend the Washington, D.C. Metro. You can get a 3-day pass, a 7-day pass for not very much money at all. Very reasonable. Or if I don't know if you've got lots of time on your hand and you want to figure out what time of day you're going to every location and you'll be on the Metro, then you can figure out how much money it will cost to do that and put only that amount of money on the card. The card costs $2. I reuse mine because I've had them for 20 years. So every student will need their own Metro pass. Maybe I should make a video about that for you. But it's not at all hard to use the DC Metro. No problem at all. Keep your group together as long as you got 20, 25 people. You won't have any trouble. I've had as many as 30 people riding the Metro without any problems. So you can do that, as long as you've got enough parents to shepherd everybody in. You'll be fine on the Metro. And, then of course they need to know where we're getting off, what direction we're heading on which train, and things like that. So yeah, those are the 3 things. Itinerary and front cover, National Mall map on the inside, first page, back cover, Metro. So that type of map works for me. Okay, so then what's in all of these other pages? Well, I've been to Washington, D.C. so many times that I no longer need to print out pages on everything that I'm going to see. I already know where the marble came from on the inside of the Library of Congress. So I don't need that information. My students do, okay? Now, every student notebook is different. And I teach them the organizational skills. They need to learn how to organize things. Okay. Yeah, I think sometimes we rely too much on computers to try to organize things for them. They need to learn the basics of organization because, your house doesn't clean itself. And so if you can learn some basic organizational skills, then you can apply those organizational skills to other areas of their life. That's why I don't let them do this online. Okay. Your notebook has to be real, tangible, and purchased probably at a Dollar General store because I seriously just use the 99-cent spiral bound notebooks most of the time. When I've tried to use nicer notebooks like this that would last till Jesus comes, yeah, that didn't work for me because this thing's heavy. And I hated my life all week long while I carried this one through Philadelphia and Boston. So I don't recommend this. 99 cents at the Dollar General or the Dollar Tree or wherever you shop, maybe $1.49. And then after they've finished building their notebook, save about 20 pages and then rip out all of the rest and save those for school learning. Okay? In case they ever run out of paper, they will have some paper for an emergency right there. Okay? And that keeps them from toting around too much. So what's in all of these other pages? Information about what they learned. So that's where we put things like a map of this museum or this place that we're going to see. When we were in Philadelphia, I'm looking at this page, we were in Boston and Philadelphia. And while we were in Boston, we went to Betsy Ross's house. So we've got information in this about Betsy Ross's house. And I tell them, don't just go to betsyross.com or whatever website and print the first 3 pages. Don't do that. You don't need all of that. All of that doesn't interest you. Every student notebook is different. The only stuff I want in your notebook is the stuff that is interesting to you and any mandatory stuff that I give you, like the itinerary and the maps that I require you to put in there. So other stuff, and let me give you a great example of this. One of my best things I ever saw, a student really took this to heart one time. And the thing that, interested him the most about our trip to Washington, D.C. was architecture. This kid is a photographer as an adult now by trade, and he loved the visual art of the architecture of these buildings. So if I flipped through his notebook, it was about which Greek period of architecture this memorial was made in the style of, and the design here, and what was on the fascia at the front, and I'm like, okay, great, go you, but totally not interesting to me. And it made me so proud of this young man. I loved it. And then I've got other students who, they love the history. They just Abraham Lincoln, the history, the history, the history, the history. That's what it was. So they make a notebook that speaks to them. And I tell them, this makes you the expert in our group on that topic. So I have a history expert. I have a geographical expert who can really read the maps. I have somebody who's an expert in architecture. I have somebody who is an expert on the quotes and the speeches and things like that. So if we get that kind of learning within our group, then we rely on each other the whole week to give us the information that we need at that moment. It's always been fun for me to ask somebody, okay, now where did that pink marble come from? And somebody in my group will know the answer. So I just love this about them. And yeah, somebody likes timelines. Their whole notebook is full of timelines. When did we do this? When did we fight that war? When was this battle? It's fantastic. So I encourage you, dear colleague, let your student build their notebook so that it speaks to them. Now, even younger children can build a notebook. Our first trip where we built a notebook, I think my younger son was maybe 9 years old, 8 years old. And so in his notebook, we had fun things like dot to dot. And he traced out the panda at the National Zoo. Or find the word, a word find where they have all the letters, random order, but they spell words in between. So he would find different words in there in his notebook and say, oh, wow, we're going to see granite at this place. Great. Okay, what's granite? Well, let's learn about rocks a little bit so we can learn about granite. It was fantastic for him. He learned a little bit about everything on the trip. Okay. Also in the notebook, students are going to write their non-negotiable with all of this different research that they're doing. And as they dig through their favorite thing about all of the places that we're visiting, something is going to stick out every time. It's happened every time. I require that students find a non-negotiable. This is the thing that they would do even if, and we've used this example many times, even if a nor'easter blew through dumping 17 inches of snow in July on us, I would still get up and go see this thing. It's that important to me. I want to tell you this story about the first time we did this and how it paid off. We were on a field trip with a group, and I did not plan this trip. I had found out at a month or two before that we were going on this trip with the group, and we were so excited about it. It was to Boston, and we were going to go through Jamestown and then to Boston, and we were going to have half of a free day in Boston. Now, being a homeschooling family, we had one income. So we were not wealthy and are not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination. But we started doing our homework. If we're going to have half of a day, free day, we're going to do something with that because we knew we would never get to go there again. I was wrong. I did get to go there, but they didn't get to go there again. So we started researching, and back in those days we had to go to the library and we looked up books. We didn't have the internet yet, hadn't been invented. So we started digging through and we found information about the USS Constitution, Old Ironsides. And I hope you know a little bit about that ship from your history classes because it is crazy awesome, to say the very least about it. It's incredible. It is the only U.S. ship that is still in active duty since the War of 1812. It's still considered to be on active duty, and there are still sailors manning that ship, and it does sail once a year. So it's quite fascinating. So my sons and I researched this ship. We read 2 or 3 books about it and knew the history behind it, knew about some of the sailors on it, studied. Well, as it turned out, when we got to Boston, we were quite far behind. We were supposed to be there the night before, ended up getting there that next morning. We were all completely exhausted. We delayed what we were going to do that morning, so it shortened our half a day down to just a few hours after 3 p.m. And I was so thankful in that moment that we had already decided what our non-negotiable was. We had dug through different things to do while we were there, but the 3 of us, my 2 sons and I, decided on our own, no matter what, we are going to see the USS Constitution. So as soon as we finished our early afternoon thing, that was supposed to be a morning thing at around 3 o'clock, we hopped on a ferry, rode up to Charlestown on the north side of Boston, and got into the last timed tour group of the day on that ship. Now, today they do things a little bit differently, but at the time, this was the last group they were letting on that day. So we got on board, and my sons, who were, I'm thinking 11 and 8, 11 and 7 at the time, found everything so fascinating. And they had guides stationed about the ship, to answer questions. And my sons very quickly found Seaman Brooke Skinner. Brooke, wherever you are, God bless you. You've made such a big difference in our family's life. And I really hope somebody will show you this video one day so you will appreciate how thankful we are for you, Brooke. So we started asking her questions, because we could ask intelligent questions. And she even asked them some and was surprised that they knew answers about things. Well, we only had about 30 minutes there, and so we were enjoying it and loving our time on this ship and seeing this great history from the War of 1812. Oh my gosh, it's so fun. And as they were closing the ship and we're okay, well, it's about time for us to go, guys, and we're so sad, she looked at us and said, "Would you all like the grand tour?" Yes, we would. We have no idea what a grand tour is, but we want it. Absolutely. So we waited for them to get everybody else off the ship, and we got to go down below deck. I should have pulled out my picture so I could show you and prove that this is absolutely true. She took us down to the captain's quarters, and apparently when you are 11 and 7 years old, it is fascinating to see where the captain of a ship used the bathroom. And so she showed us that. We got to see his personal privy there on the ship. It's basically just an open hole, open to the water, and got to see his office and quarters. We saw a mirror that was donated, or no, I'm sorry, no, a mirror that was brought onto the ship whenever they captured the British ship, the HMS Guerriere. That captain had a mirror, and so whenever you win the battle, you get to take whatever you want off the ship. So this captain knew, a mirror was rare at the time. He wanted that mirror, and so it was hung up in his quarters. And we got a picture of my sons sitting in front of that mirror from the War of 1812. And then she took us below deck. We got to see the guns. We got to see the powder hold. My older son climbed into the powder hold and said that here we are 200 years later and it still smells like gunpowder. We saw the brig where they put drunken sailors and the surgery area where they did operations on people who, needed surgery in the middle of a battle or whenever. And we kept going down another deck and another deck. And finally, we stepped over the keel of the ship. Now, the keel is the large part of the bottom. It's right in the middle. It's where the rest of the ship is built around this keel. It's the first plank laid. And so we stepped over the keel. And at the time, that was the original keel of the ship from the War of 1812. Oh, it beats in my heart. It was so fun. So we stepped over the keel, over the lines for the sump pump that was sucking water out of the bottom because, wooden ships leak. And we went up to the front of the ship and she showed us bolts that were donated to the construction of that ship by Paul Revere, the Paul Revere. And I have a picture of my two sons in front of those bolts, and my older son stuck his hand around behind and he put his finger on a bolt that Paul Revere made. And I knew right then that I needed to teach students history and then take them to go see it. And it was after that trip that I started planning a field trip every year, sometimes a couple of them a year, so I could teach students in advance what they would see and help them to learn why it's so important so that they could appreciate it when they got there. And it made a difference every single time. Every trip I've ever been on since then, students have appreciated what they were seeing, what they learned, and why it's so important to our country's history and how it makes us who we are. And a large part of this has been because I had students make notebooks. And all of that research paid off. I assure you that our guide, Brooke Skinner, I promise you, she wouldn't have given us the time of day had we not been able to ask her intelligent questions about what we were seeing. If you get to go to Old Ironsides in Charleston, just north of Boston, you'll see those bolts that we touched, but they're in a museum now, and you don't get to touch them. And I'm sorry for that, for you, but I'm so grateful that we had that experience because it's paid off on every single trip we went to. Make a notebook with your students. Require that they research everything they're going to see before they get there. This has served my family so well. I have a multitude of stories that I could tell. And if I ever get a speaking engagement somewhere, I can't wait to share some of the fun stories about Ben in Chinatown and David last year when we were in believe it or not, Tombstone, Arizona. It was awesome. My two adult sons have loved traveling and have loved learning ever since. And there's not a doubt in my mind that it's because I required them to do the research in advance and really dig in and learn about the places that they were going to see. So I hope this idea of making a notebook and putting 2 or 3 pages in about each location they're going to see and doing the homework, I hope that will help you 10 times as much as it has ever helped any of my students. And have a great trip. Thank you for watching this. Again, I'm Frances Arthur with Field Trip Ready, and I hope that you'll enjoy your next field trip.